actually had discussions of this kind where we come together as a university community to think about what kind of a space is this, both teachers and students. Because a lot has been happening both in our campus and outside, as you all know. I mean, you only need, even if you don't watch TV, because like me, because I've given up watching TV, I can't bear to watch the kind of shrieking and shouting that goes on in the name of debate. So even if you just read the newspapers like I do, and read the articles that Friends forward, it is still enough to make you, to varying degrees, depressed, disappointed, angry, frustrated. But there are also, some rays of hope in between, and I think as a community, those are the ones that we need to sort of hang on to. And so I want to start by saying that this is such an important move to actually have a discussion, and I hope that this is just one of the things that that students are planning to organize, because this university has had a vibrant history of debate and discussion, and for various reasons that seems to be shrinking as it has become all over the country. So I want to begin. Maya has already talked about that the fact that it is our basic democratic right to express our opinions. We have freedom of expression. The Constitution guarantees these rights. But then what kind of a place is the university? So higher education and as part of higher education, we as teachers and students, so we are citizens of a democratic country, so we enjoy all the rights that citizens of the country do. But as those of us who have been reading about about nationalism or about how a democracy actually works, how does power work, we know also that it is not enough that something is enshrined in the Constitution, that something is set in law. That practice is an entirely different area, right? That the field of practice, how actually on the ground democracy works, is a very different story, right? Although all of us are in law equal. Women have found that they are not equal citizens. Dalits have found that, minority communities, citizens have found that, and this is not something new that I am telling you. But what I want to focus on here is, as students and as teachers, I feel that we occupy a very special place, which is both, I feel at times, I am very grateful that, that I am part of a university which gives me the space to read. We have the luxury of, actually having a job where I can read. It's a legitimate part of, think, discuss, teach. So, as students and teachers, we do enjoy this special privilege of being one part of society where, we can acquire knowledge, produce knowledge. So which means it also gives us this additional responsibility that any dissent and activism that is there on the campus then has to be informed debate. It has to be, debate that is not simply polemical, but that one that is backed up by reasoned arguments and by producing facts. Although now today, given the kind of enormous amounts of false propaganda and lies and fabrications which the government itself seems to be, or let us say agents of the governments and so on, they are indulging in, and lawyers who are supposed to uphold law just sink to the are so degraded that they will actually indulge in violence because they know that in law they will not be able to support the kind of false allegations that they have made on students, so they resort to violence. Given this kind of overall atmosphere, you might think that where is the space for reasoned debate? Is it actually possible, to say that I respect your your right to say things that I don't completely agree with. Because in fact, precisely the condition today of what has happened after the HCU Rohit Vemula case and in what is happening in JNU today, it is precisely this space that seems to be, denied to us. So it's like that, after 9/11, this famous or infamous statement that Bush made, you're either with us or against us. So it seems like there is a very set, agenda to discredit all dissent. So in the nationalism then becomes a stick with which you beat everybody. So unless you salute the national flag, 7 times a day and you sing the Jana Gana Mana or Vande Mataram, it seems like you are not, you're not national. You're nationalist, you're not patriotic. But it is precisely here, I think it is our job to give wider definitions to how we think about the nation, to give more inclusive definitions of what we mean by when we say being patriotic, being nationalist. And it is here that we really need to, put forward very strongly and in no uncertain terms that dissenting, challenging conventional common sense, questioning widespread prejudices and assumptions, and using precisely the space of the university and the knowledge and the information that we as students and teachers, in the course of our training and teaching, gather, to use that to counter such narrow and dangerous definitions, to intervene in this. On this wall here, I see this, the art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery, it says. In fact, I would say far from that. In fact, as a teacher, you learn more than I think you ever teach students. At least that has been my experience. So it's not the art of assisting discovery, but I feel that teaching, is a responsibility where sometimes being open to the questions your students bring to class. And as Maya said, what are the kind of universities we have today? Gopal Guru once said when he came for a meeting here that what we have today is the Mandal classroom. What did he mean by that? That thanks to the 90s, debates and the whole agitations that followed the implementation of the Mandal reservations, today the profile of our university is finally changing after 6 or 7 decades of independence. We finally have at least some students, first generation learners from communities, from caste groups, from communities who have never been able to reach institutions of higher education. So naturally, there is a lot of conflict, resentment from those groups who have historically had access to these institutions. And in fact, as teachers, sometimes we don't have all the answers, and we are as ill-equipped as anybody else sometimes to how to deal with this. In fact, in your own discussions and activisms, you may have realized that even the most democratic of us, when we are confronted with arguments and things that we do not understand, or that which are not immediately intangible, or which are not close to our own experience, it is very difficult to accept those. Here I want to briefly, hopefully without taking too much time, I just want to go back to my own university days, and where one of the turning points, I would say, when I was a student in the early 90s in the University of Hyderabad, there was a rape that took place on campus. A student was raped by 3 people, outsiders who had come, and some of you might know University of Hyderabad is a huge campus and many areas which today may be better lit than it was that time, but it was not a very safe place, and this girl was raped. But when some women students and then male students also got together, for many actually women students also, just uttering the word rape, it was not easy. It was not easy to actually say, so people use many kinds of euphemism, molested, attacked, assaulted. So, I'm using this example just to say that even beginning of a discussion, forget getting to the stage of activism, but that was an important learning process for many of us who were students then to start thinking about how to articulate a problem. So then there were many groups had come together, there was demands, then the classes were stopped, and we said better security for women students, take up this case and support the survivor of this rape. So on many things happened, and it was a political education. So I think one point that I want to make is that all of us may not come to the university with all our political ideas, our affiliations firmly fixed and formed. In fact, the space of the university is where you will learn slowly to think about things. So the space of the university should also be a space where mistakes are tolerated. Which is why in the JNU case, first of all, now we clearly know that these videos were doctored and these slogans, but even if, students had race slogans which are seen as anti-national, the space of the university should be one where they are free to do it. Because that is the space where you learn. You learn, you make mistakes, you rethink your ideas. And anyway, going back to that specific issue of the rape that took place in the early 90s on HCU campus. So some Dalit students had at that time gotten together, mostly male, there were very few Dalit women students, there were few but not many. And they said one of the demands that we should make is provide compensation for the rape survivor. And many of us upper class, middle class students were horrified by this talk of money, which we felt was, we somehow felt it made the whole thing vulgar. We were not. But whereas the Dalit students then said, when many Dalit women are, raped or attacked and so on, compensation is a standard government kind of response. And for us, it was somehow, this ideas of chastity being violated and then equating it with money, we sort of recoiled with some kind of. But then we had to learn that, that there is a different way of thinking about this. And during that incident, it also so happened that one passionate faculty member said that all men are bastards and we should be ashamed of what had happened. He was denouncing this whole issue. But then that became a point where suddenly the whole rape issue was sidetracked and a whole group of students gathered to attack this faculty member saying, he said bastards, so he has insulted our mothers and therefore we should attack him. Now it was a strange turn of events that happened. Now I am sure that here also in your own experience you will find that when people get together, yes of course there will be democratic debate, dissent, but all kinds of opinions of what should be done. Should we hold a dharma? Should we write a pamphlet? Should we, do something else? Should we just have a discussion? I'm sure, and these are dilemmas, and it's not like teachers also, when they get together, we are also not always quite sure what is the best way, the strategy to be adopted, how to move tactfully. But I think overall, from what I learned from that, and later on, at a very different space in Colombia, I happened to be soon after the 9/11 incident, and in this mass hysteria of American nationalism, those of us who are not American felt very vulnerable. But the space of the university again was the space which provided us some kind of a refuge, a shelter. And there, some of us and other students also got together to organize what are called teach-ins. Like in the JNU, in fact, they had started, this is a tradition which goes back to the anti-Vietnam War in the US, where precisely because the university is a space where there are so many experts, there are professors who have, studied a particular thing for many years, that these are people who have worked. So precisely to use that knowledge to educate the university community to form a basis to be able to have a reasoned and informed debate. So that idea of the teaching then, so there were many important academics who had then spoken in these teachings who condemned the 9/11 sort of attacks and the tragedy, the lives lost and so on, but also tried to bring in, and it was a very difficult thing, not easy, to bring in the effect of the American, Cold War, the American foreign policy and so on, to bring in a larger perspective on this very, very that point were waving their national flags, and everybody who was not white American had become an enemy. You know, there was this whole thing of homeland security and who's a patriot, who is not. So these are two things where I felt that, I learned that the university is a precious space, it's a sacred space, where it should not, activism also should not and cannot simply be about polemics or very rigid kind of stand where we already know what each one is going to say. Of course, in these times it seems like how can you even engage with some of these voices, right? But nevertheless, I think it is still important for us to be able to, and as students, we are citizens, but we are also students and teachers. So it is, I think, for us to think of the different ways. So political activism, I think, has to be defined very broadly. Like I think Maya said, a film screening, discussion after a film screening, or I remember some years ago, some of you who are here had taken to cross-dressing, and I thought that was such a wonderful and innovative way of breaking the sort of making a new statement about gender, freedom of expression in terms of gender identity. So there can be many, many broad ways. Sometimes of course it demands that you go on a strike, you take up a dharma when everything else fails, then students are forced to take up with these things. But I just want, have I finished my time? Can I take a minute? Yeah, there are two things that I want to say and then I will stop. I think one thing is that with many of these things like Facebook and WhatsApp and so on, they're wonderful. You get to, so many things are forwarded to you every day, you get to read so many things, you can quickly organize things and so on, it facilitates. But I also feel that sometimes, again, like I want to say that in the university should also be a space for reflection, reading, where you want to sometimes step back from taking a stand each and every day, where you want to read and think about things, right? See, some moments cannot afford you that luxury. Of course, then you have to, get on there, write something, make a statement. But I feel that sometimes there is a intense pressure that comes from this online, like this. So sometimes it sort of stands in the way of actually reading all the things that you want to read, thinking about things, reflecting. And so that is something that we need to think about. Maybe we can have a discussion. And I think, WhatsApp I find is quite pernicious because it gives you these little nuggets and capsules of completely unsubstantiated. There's no space for discussion. So all kinds of, I've seen, especially, anti-minority, anti-women, anti-democratic, to put it in a broad way, kinds of information and film clips that are circulated on WhatsApp that sometimes you just drown in it and you feel so frustrated so I want to just end by saying that so given that yes, all of us agree that university has to be a democratic space, but sometimes going back to what Gopal Guru called the Mandal classroom, all of us may not come from the same background. Some of us may be urban, very articulate in English, and see ourselves as liberal, while some others may come from a different rural background, educated not in an English medium, and sometimes, especially young women who are from an urban setting, who are used to, a certain kind of freedom, may be confronted with ideas and, that do not respect that. So there might be many occasions where this debate and dialogue may not be very smooth. Because see, after all, the university is also the space where you make friendships, you fall in love, you fall out of love, many things happen, right? But here, sometimes it so happens that the people you hang around with, a lot of times they are the ones who influence, oh, you are going to protest, I will also come. Or, oh, but let us do, and often our discussions, let us do something, we ought to do something, right? And it is then that, the difficult part of trying to reach out to those who may not, agree with on all counts, and building alliances, building strategic alliances, building alliances across groups who are broadly, if you feel, you agree on, but there are many smaller things that you don't quite agree on. Building alliances there and doing the hard work of actually talking. I think those are important things that build a culture of dissent without, and that keep the sort of dialogue open. And you will see that actually political activism is not it's not an easy thing. It is a difficult thing, but it is also something that, the university is the space where you have the freedom to make mistakes, to learn, to rethink. For example, in my degree days, I must confess, I was one of those who were part of the anti-Mandal agitation. In fact, everyone in my college was anti-Mandal. So we all went around with saying the death of Merit and all of that. And then when I came to the University of Hyderabad, I was surprised to learn that so many people I respected, and I thought that, that they had a very different position. And over the years, I had learned, how mistaken and how, we are blind to our own privileges of caste or location, right? But that is something that the university should allow, and I think that is the success of the university space. So for that, really, we should really fight. And I think this saying that, how can you talk of this when army soldiers are dying in Siachen? That is such a disingenuous and, dangerous argument to make, because the nation needs the army, but it also needs universities. You cannot have a democracy that is run by an army, right? Just because, somebody, of course it is tragic. We mourn the death of those soldiers. We know that it is not easy to, but that cannot become a stick with which to silence all of us, that you cannot talk about anything else. You cannot talk about Kashmir. You cannot talk about Northeast. You cannot talk, in fact, you cannot do anything but just do puja and aarti to Bharat Mata every day. That is not what universities are for. So I was actually disappointed that all the vice chancellors meet in Delhi, and the headline says they decided to put up national flags. If that is all, that they went for, there are such burning issues. In fact, it seemed like, the UGC's own directive that every university should set up a center for equal opportunity. Now, at least the reports that I read, they did not seem to have had any substantial discussion about it. We hope, many of us, that at least now, after the nation was burning with the discussion about Rohit Vedula's death, that at least now the government will do something. But of course, they got the JNU issue where they could simply talk about nationalism and nothing else. And therefore, that opportunity for doing something more concrete, establishing institutions and institutional mechanisms. And that is one of the things about the JNU case. Why were the institutional mechanisms set aside to bring in the police? That is something we need to think about. But anyway, I did not want to go into particulars, but talk more generally about what is the space of the university and what we can learn from each other. So I will stop there. Thank you so much.